Hello, Schmoeville. Well, it is coming to the end of Phase 2. One more episode before, we have this one and then one more before we hit Phase 3, the Toad Hop years. So this is still Phase 2, and this was pretty cool. We got to talk, there was a movie out in 2012. Usually January is the toilet bowl of the movie season. But in 2012, we got a movie called The Grey with Liam Neeson. If you've seen it, you may or may not agree. I think you will agree. It's pretty intense. It's just a movie you didn't expect to come out in January. And if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's on Netflix, I believe. And the reason I bring this up is because we were lucky enough to have the writer of The Grey call in and talk about the movie, about the inspiration for it, and there's a lot of cool stuff. Again, if you've seen the movie, then it'll kind of fit into it, about his process, and it was fun. And we talked about. And then afterwards, after he left, Mark and Catherine and I talked about, I guess the Hunger Games was right around the corner, so we talked about Hunger Games for a bit, and then we got into some Wonder Woman discussions. It's cool. So check it out. Let us know what you think. And again, make sure you check out Phase 5 of the podcast, which is every Thursday. Now it's 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on schmoesno.com. And that's about it. Thanks, guys. Enjoy this episode of Phase 2.
And now, it's the Schmoes No Show.
Yes, I know Catherine hates it.
Yeah, she ain't the only one.
Really? You hate it too?
I think it's unnecessary. I think that when you come in, whoever intros the podcast is so buoyant and jubilant and full of energy, we don't really need anything else.
So you think now, so after episode 41, that is officially retired.
Look, Christian, you've had a lot of good additions to the podcast. We're a big fan of the game here, but
I don't think that speaks to... It doesn't speak for us. That's not the voice of this podcast.
Fine. So I just wanted to play it to us. What do you guys think out there? Write us in the review. Did you like that? All right, guys. Welcome back to the Schmoes No Podcast, episode 41. This is Christian Harloff.
This is Mark Ellis.
And this is Catherine Reitman.
Yeah, we're all in a happy mood today. Why are we in a happy mood? Because we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things as far as writing, as far as what makes a good story, what makes a good screenplay. But look, this is a really exciting thing. One of the best movies out this year so far in 2012, I think, by all three of us, we agree here, was The Grey.
Yep.
Yes.
We are going to be joined on this podcast by the person who not only wrote the
Liam Neeson.
One of the wolves from The Grey will be joining.
We'll be here.
Even better. The person who wrote the novel for The Grey as well as the screenplay for The Grey, Ian Mackenzie Jeffers.
Pretty badass.
Yeah, we're going to actually call him. I'm going to try to call him right now.
A real life. We just got his number, so we're going to...
We found him on the Yellow Pages.
Doesn't even know we're calling. So we're going to call him up.
Should I say I'm the pizza delivery guy?
Yeah, please. We're actually really excited.
I got your number on the wall. 867.
Hey, Ian. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Ian, how are you?
Good.
Good. You are live on the Schmoes No Podcast. This is Christian.
Hey, Ian, it's Mark, the good-looking schmo. This must be a huge thrill for you. Thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
I hope you can hear it. Can you hear us all right now, Ian?
Yeah, okay. You guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So we're this episode of the podcast we're talking about as far as screenplays, and we're talking story and what makes a good story, and we're also joined by Catherine Reitman, who is here.
Hi.
And we, all three of us, are huge fans of The Grey. We think it's one of the best movies of the year.
You did real good.
Yeah, and we are honored to have you on the podcast. So we just wanted to thank you.
Thank you. We're glad you dug it.
It was really cool because, I mean...
Well, it was really good before anything else because it got the taste of joyful noise out of all of our mouths. So that was the biggest thing The Grey did this year.
Well, that's important to do.
Yeah, I think that was the first question. Was that in your mind while writing the script?
Yeah,
How could it not?
was.
How could it not?
That's right. Well, there's a couple things we wanted to ask you as far as, in The Grey in particular. Like, so you wrote the novel for that as well, correct?
Yeah.
How did you come up with the story?
Yeah, what inspired you to write this? I think we lost him.
Did we lose him?
The most insulting question to start off.
He bailed.
That's it. I would too.
The wolves got him.
He's here.
Cool. This is like doing an interview from the...
We're breaking up on him again.
You shouldn't have blown your load on that first opening clip.
I'm trying.
Yeah, we're
We're trying to establish the connection here again.
It's almost like we're in the wilderness in Alaska and we're sending out a signal for help.
That's right. The cell phones won't work, you dead fuckers.
That's right.
Okay,
And he's back.
Okay, we got him. So, all right, we missed the answer. How did you come up with the story, Ian?
The original impulse, I think I've always I mean, I've always had a strange obsession with wolves, which, and I mean, there were a bunch of different impulses. I mean, I've gone camping. I've been scared. There's that. I've been afraid in the woods.
Right.
And there were a bunch of kids from my school who used to go on a climbing trip every year in the Alps. Actually, I went to school in England, and every year they went. And one year, I practically graduated, or I had graduated, but the kids who had been coming in when I was going out, they basically 6 of them, didn't make it. They went on this climbing trip. They didn't make it home, and they were like,
"Wow,
yeah, it was pretty."
That's
it was
a big
pretty
story.
Bad, yeah, and it was a small town in England, and it had a big impact on the town. And
what happened to those kids?
They died.
Just out in like the elements, or did the wolves get them?
They didn't. There was a there was a mishap, and they didn't make it back. And I had known the teacher, and the teacher who had been, when I went to the school, sort of the toughest sort of ball buster, made my life sort of difficult there. And I saw him after this happened, and he had been the guy sort of responsible, and it was,
oh man.
Yeah, it's almost a whole other story. So that was one of the things. And I think, I mean, when I started writing it, it was really just the idea was to try actually to do just a simple adventure story. But then as soon as you get into the okay, an inch to the left you're alive, an inch to the right you're dead.
Yeah.
Kind of situation, you start thinking about those things. And my dad had passed away also a few years before I started it, and that kind of colored everything I wrote,
right.
for a while. And so, you're in that situation. And, as I said, I'd been camping and been afraid. There are those moments where quickly it can get serious. And so I think it just started to get to be, when my dad passed away, I'd managed, other than that incident in my school, I'd managed to get to the age I'd gotten to without ever really encountering that. I'd never really encountered somebody close to me passing on, and kind of it's a strange thing to encounter if you've never encountered it before, and kind of a space opened up, and that's the way I describe it. I talk about it as a big dark space, not a depression thing, but it's just kind of, some people call it, you experience death at close hand, you touch the infinite in some way. So all those things together sort of whipped into it. And like I said, I mean, it was supposed to be, just an adventure story. As I got into the situation, then all these other things start, swirl around it.
Yeah,
right.
Like when you watch the movie, anyway, for me, when you actually see the gray, it felt a lot. It was almost like it was inspired by the movie Alive a little bit, because that's the first time that I saw people stuck in the wilderness, and they end up eating each other in that one. Luckily,
well, yeah, and I'm glad that didn't happen in this. Although it's sort of, it's funny. It just, I think maybe if Alive wasn't out there in the public mind, maybe this would be there, because we were. Or I was anyway. When you're in the situation, you're of writing it, you're thinking, okay, what are they going to do to survive? And so it did go there. But that was, I think I read that book when I was, actually, strangely enough, at that school. So
no kidding.
That may have gotten into my head a little bit. I haven't seen it. That's those things, and Jack London too. I mean, I think I'd be lying if the stories of Jack London didn't, heavily infect the way I want to write, because he was so immediate. So yeah, I think that was in my head a little bit too.
Now, when you're writing, so you wrote the novel, and then what kind of inspires you, or did somebody say, hey, we should really turn this into a movie? How do you go from writing a novel into writing a screenplay? Because they sound like two different animals, neither one that I would be good at.
Well, yeah, and they are different animals, and especially in this case, I mean, the books, ended up quite different, or the film ended up quite different from what I did in the book.
Now, was that you writing the screenplay differently, or was that people taking the movie that's
and
the
thing.
changing it?
If I rewrote the book again next year, it would be a different book, and the book I wrote, the original novella, that I wrote years ago, when I sort of came back. It sort of expanded. I was working on the novella and working on the screenplay at the same time because it was my way of discovering the screenplay.
Right.
Can I ask you this question? I've always wondered this since we learned about this in school. What is the difference between a novella and a novel?
You're so ignorant, Mark. You're embarrassing.
Well, a novella has the little L and the A on the end of it.
Sure.
and that's different. I think also if it's any shorter, it's a novellini or something. It's
Sexier that way.
Okay.
I think roughly. I mean, we originally in the credits, it says based on the short story, and it was a very, very long. I mean, it's really it's really length. I don't know what it really means. It was sort of too long to publish as a short story, but not really what you would call, a big fat novel normally on a shelf. So it's really just a matter of degree. I mean, even this as a novel, the one that's out now that's sort of, as I said, expanded as I was writing the screenplay. It's kind of, I think it's about exactly the length of Old Man and the Sea, which is, I think it's described as a novel.
Yeah.
I think
well, either way, I mean, look, I'm not a big reader. I'm the guy that's watching the movie. That's what I'm doing.
Look, that's something that you had mentioned, and this is for. I don't want to get into too much of a. Well, I guess I'm going to have to warn people here for the next at least 30 to 40 seconds as far as the spoiler goes. You mentioned the credits.
That's right.
Now, Mark and I actually did not stay to the end of the credits.
I did.
We heard about it.
I saw it.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is that if you leave before the credits, it's a totally different feel. Apparently, from the ending, it's a different ending.
I disagree.
You think?
I was going to say, did it feel that way for you?
Absolutely not. I sat through the whole thing. Only because someone warned me that there was a scene at the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I was ready for a fleshed out scene. I was ready for what happened. It's literally 3 seconds.
Right, but you don't know. But here's the spoiler.
Did it clear anything up for you?
No.
Not really.
Yeah.
Right, did it? I mean, it sort of leaves it ambiguous. And actually, it's funny. There's a much better shot. It's funny. There's a very similar shot. I think the shot that stayed in the post credit blip is a shot from behind where you see Liam lying on the wolf, which he called the Muppet.
That's hilarious.
There's a side shot which was in a way better. It sort of more closely matched what was in the script. I mean, it's better. I don't know.
In your book, is there an ending? Is there a more clear-cut ending?
There's a shot from the side where he's lying on the wolf's belly in the same way, but you see him from the side, and his breath is misting because it was fucking cold.
Yeah.
So it just ups in the screenplay, and the camera just follows Liam's breath up into the air. And at the moment they were shooting it that morning, literally at the moment the camera tilted Liam's breath up, the sun came and basically backlit the breath, and it was such a perfect shot. And I think ultimately Joe went away from it because it was. I mean, what Joe wanted to avoid, his credit, was to give. He wanted to avoid giving anybody an easy ending for this, and
he successfully did that.
yes, we managed that pretty well.
Yeah,
and I think I think he felt maybe that he would feel that would think the sun coming out digital or something, and somehow trying to put or saying definitely that he was dead and going to heaven. I could see.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it was a beautiful shot, but
in your book, is there a more clear ending?
No, it was always ambiguous. The last line, it plays out differently. There's a battle in the book. There's the final battle. There was always a final battle, but it sort of becomes a kind of hallucinatory for the guy. He's bleeding out, and there comes to be, there's a point at which he's surrounded by these wolves, and he sees the aurora, which he sees at the beginning. You don't see that in the movie, but that's in the beginning of the book.
Sorry, aurora is the
aurora borealis, the northern lights.
Yes,
it's
of course.
a feature in the book, but we couldn't do it in the movie.
It's the constellation I'm going to show you when we go to Makeout Point, Catherine.
I can't wait, Mark. I cannot wait.
Well, you might have to drive a few hours.
Right.
But he's either surrounded by wolves or he's surrounded by people who have come to help him, or he thinks he hears a chopper, but it's really just a river nearby, and he sort of doesn't. You don't know what's happening, and in the book there's a son he's trying to get back to. We focused it just on the wife for the film,
right?
But he says various things. He says, well, it's wolves standing around me, or it's someone's reaching a hand telling me I can go back to my son. and then or it's the wolves standing over me. I don't know anymore. And then the last line of the book is, in my dream, I take the hand. So
wow.
You still don't know. And it was always intended that way. We just didn't.
Cool.
Now, when you find out as a writer that Liam Neeson is attached to the story, what's your reaction?
Oh, a lot of jumping up and down.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, that's what I really enjoyed about the story, is because the fact that Liam Neeson right now has this, has got this whole action star thing going on. So, when you see the trailer of The Grey, you're going, oh, it's going to be another one of these action movies. And there's so much more depth to it that it's not that type of movie. That when you get, the way Carnahan brought it and your script, the way it was there was so much depth into everything. It was such a breath of fresh air, especially in January.
Yeah, and a guy like Liam can pull off both, and
right, because he's so emotional.
I was thrilled. I mean, we had a bunch of people. A lot of people went through that script. It was, and we were, pretty happy with several of them. But when Liam, and also Liam's from the next county. Liam is from a few miles. Otway's my dad, basically. Otway's based on my dad. And my dad's Scottish, but all his family are from Armagh in Ireland, which is about 10 feet from where Liam grew up. And,
so you were drunk while writing.
Actually, I didn't know that until I got to the set, and we were, talking, and Liam decided to do it in his natural accent, which I don't think he's ever done before. I mean, he hasn't used his normal way of talking.
Sexy.
I don't think anyone knows what Liam Neeson's actual accent is, because he's changed it up so many times.
In The Grey, the way he talks in The Grey is that's Liam. That's how he actually talks. And so we were talking about it. And I told him where my dad's family were from, and he said, "Oh fuck, that's where my family's from." So it made me very happy. Just aside from the fact he's a huge star and a great actor and a really great guy, and could invest this with all the things he invested it.
Well, it's also
he's actually connected to the character you wrote.
Like I said, my dad's passed away, to see Liam kind of be my dad on film was, cool.
It's full circle, my friend. That's what you call a full circle.
When you talk about my dad can beat up your dad, you're like, well, but my dad can beat up wolves. So that's.
So Liam is marginally taller and maybe slightly better looking than my dad. But
I doubt it.
Let me ask you this, because Liam, and again, he's doing it in his born accent. When he's delivering the poem. Man, that poem is so cool, because they say, the line again, and if somebody hasn't seen it, earmuffs, but live and die on this day is the last line of the poem. Did you come up with that, or was that a real poem?
Joe, and I actually gave Joe a hard time about it, because but nobody else has cared. I mean, no one has given us it's very Shakespeare. It's very much from Henry V. It's not. I mean, it's an original thing from Joe's head.
Oh, Joe came up with the poem? So that poem wasn't in the novel.
Joe, that is Joe. And I said, we're going to catch a lot of shit for this, because it's the big speech from Henry V. But nobody has brought it up. And it's not exactly, it's just very, very close. If you watch...
I was about to bring it up, but I'm glad that you brought it up first. Makes it less embarrassing.
That's right. Yeah. But it sums it up really well. And the thing is, the book, if you read, there's a very different father plot in the book, completely different. The father in the book's completely different from the father in the movie, which is funny, and they're but they're both in a way they're both my dad, and that study is it's I love the way that Joe shot that, and the fragment of the poem. It all felt very real. And Joe, I said, look, the critics who know Shakespeare are gonna kill us for this.
Nobody did, huh?
No, nobody did, and maybe one guy mentioned it. But
he's the worst, that guy.
Yeah, but that guy hates everything.
And then not in a really disparaging way. And Joe's feeling about it was that the guy, the guy's dad, wouldn't have been a scholar, wouldn't have been a PhD in literature, and just might have had that kicking around in his head, and wasn't a poet. It was just something that came out of him, and it obviously has connected for people. It's funny. It's one of the things that's really connected for people is that poem. And
absolutely, it's one of those things. Especially when we did our review on it, and on our YouTube comments. I mean, that poem was just quoted by tons and tons of the fans. It was great.
Yeah, and look, if Carnahan is borrowing from Shakespeare, I'm pretty sure Shakespeare borrowed from some people too. Maybe not anonymous.
I saw
level,
anonymous. Yeah.
Shakespeare made a living out of it.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's cool. It's not like Mencia stealing a joke. This is a different thing,
man.
Well, so Ian, I know that we don't have you for much longer, but I just wanted to. What's next? What do you got? What are you working on right now?
I'm doing a thing with McGee on 50s NASCAR drivers, in particular this guy, Junior Johnson, who's phenomenal. He was an amazing driver in the 50s, and this is when NASCAR was on dirt tracks, and a lot of the guys who were racing in the early days were driving moonshine for their dads at night, and that's how they could be such good drivers. And this guy, and Junior's no exception. He's a huge legend in the NASCAR world, and he drove moonshine for his dad, and he never got caught on the road because he was such a good driver. And he put those skills onto the racetrack, and not only that, he didn't stop driving. Driving didn't make a lot of money in those days,
right.
And his family didn't have a ton of money, and he kept driving moonshine. He was ranked 6th in the nation in NASCAR, was a pretty famous driver. When he got arrested at his dad's still at dawn one day and went away and did a year and a half in Ohio, and then came back out and was a racer again. And he was just a complete pedal to the metal, would never slow down, was not a strategic driver. I mean, he was brilliantly strategic, but he wouldn't slow down to be strategic.
Like Tom Cruise in Days of Thunder.
I was going to say, if you mention Days of Thunder with this real NASCAR story, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Well, there haven't been that many NASCAR movies, right, strangely, but they've all kind of taken something from Junior's life, one way or the other. He really sort of dominates the early days of NASCAR. And he was racing against, the guys who were the granddaddies of the dynasties who are out there now. He was racing against Ralph Earnhardt, who was the granddaddy of Dale Earnhardt, and he was racing against Lee Petty, who's granddaddy of the current Pettys, and it was just and we follow him from the early days of moonshining through the dirt tracks and through the sort of super speedway period, up to around 1960 when the speedways had come in, and he wins the second Daytona 500 by discovering drafting. He has a slower car. No one will. The other great thing about Junior is that he, if you look at his statistics, he won a lot of races, but he would either win or the statistic is called DNF, did not finish, and that's because he would either cross the line first or blow the car up or drive it off the track, and he would, he just the guy would not slow down.
That is badass. That combines two of my favorite loves: driving fast and alcohol.
What stage are you at with that right now?
What stage is it at?
Yeah.
We're pretty close to a first draft. I'm actually going to give McGee a draft in about 10 days.
Nice.
So and I went down. I stayed with. I went down to North Carolina and visited with Junior for about a week. And the guy's a genius. Very unassuming, low key guy, but did things with engines and things with driving that are just amazing. Aside from discovering drafting, I mean, that was the other thing. When he won, I'll give you this last thing. When he won Daytona, he didn't have backing because he just blew up every car he got into. He won a lot, but he kept blowing cars up, so he didn't have backing, didn't have a ride. And a week before the race, a mechanic said, "Look, I got this old car. We got a week. What the hell? Let's put a car together and see if we can get in it." So they built a car in a week. Literally went around the clock building a car in the week. They get up there, and it's 20 to 30 miles an hour slower than all the Pontiacs. All the big team. The Pontiacs were the big team that year.
Yeah.
They're doing the trials, they're doing the heats, and Junior, he says, I'm just going to embarrass you. We're going home. This is just we can't do this, And the guy said, well, I'll give him one more try, see what happens. And he gets behind one of the Pontiacs, and he just happened to sit right on his tail.
He's just drafting the whole time, yeah.
Exactly, and he had to back off, or he was gonna crash the guy. So he backed off the gas just a little, and the tack dropped, but his speed didn't drop. And he said, "What the hell is this?" And he sat there at 30 miles an hour faster than his top speed, and that's when he discovered drafting. So he didn't tell anybody else. But he goes out and he gets in the race, and he beat all, and basically he gets behind the lead car, sits there for the last 20 laps, and on about 3 or 4 laps to go, the draft got so intense that it popped out the back window of the car in front of him. It literally sucked the back windshield right out of the car, and that made the car. Junior passed him, wins the race. So,
wow.
Well, now that's incredible that they built the car in the week, because I had 3 months to build my car for the Pinewood Derby when I was in Boy Scouts, and it never materialized.
That
And
does
let me ask you one last question too. Is I was born in North Carolina, so my question is: when you went to North Carolina, did you have any delicious North Carolina moonshine in doing research?
You know what? There was a lot of moonshine around, and it was Junior makes it. Junior makes it now.
I'm sure he does.
Good. So, is there a title for the?
You know what we're going with right now is just Junior Johnson.
Okay, cool. Well, look, we look forward.
Title
Keep our eyes peeled.
NASCAR project, but we're thinking Junior Johnson's probably better. And but it's the whole history of NASCAR growing up and focusing on Junior, and
It's a good time to do it right now, for sure.
I would call the movie Junior and the Magic Moonshine Factory, but that's just me. You don't have to take that.
That's why he's doing the Schmoes No podcast, not writing. But Ian, thank you so much. I mean, I can't tell you, like, we loved the Gray, and really are happy that you were able to come on and talk shop and kind of give us an insight on how it all went down.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. And I'm really glad. I'm glad you dug it, and thanks for having me.
Yeah,
no problem.
thank
Not
you.
just dug it, love it. So
If there's one book that I may read now, it's the actual novel of the
I
Gray.
know.
Screw the Hunger Games. I'm reading the Gray now.
I'm not holding my breath.
yeah, Ellis is going to be sitting at coffee meal. Like, I know that guy. All right, thanks a lot, Ian. We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, buddy.
All right, take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Now,
How
see,
cool-
that's a
that's
young man
cool, man.
doing something with his life.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like,
What I can't believe is that Mark was affected of the poem that said, "Live today hard," basically. You
Yeah.
do not live today hard at all.
Well, I take naps.
He lives
Yes.
vicariously through every character he sees. He doesn't have to do that. He can
But
sit
isn't
on
that
his
supposed
couch.
to inspire Mark to go out and meet a lady and get ambitious with his life?
He was running.
You know what? Maybe if I see a girl that I like one day, I'll say that to myself.
Right.
I'll say, "Live and die on this day, Mark." And I'm going to go up to her and I'm going
and
to
you're
ask
going to kill
out.
her. You're going to just kill her.
I'm just going to rip her heart out. And then maybe it'll end. Maybe the end of that movie is me lying on her and we're both breathing very heavily. Who knows?
One of you's dying. One of you's bleeding out.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
All fantasy. Now, one of the things we said we were going to talk about just screenwriters and the writing process. So one of the things that I like to say, we talked about The Gray being a novel. Like, what is there any particular novel that you guys? I know the answer to this from Mark is no, but is there anything that you read that you like that you're glad made it into a movie? Like, again, for me, I'm obviously going to start with The Hunger Games and say that
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. It's one of the only books where, as I was reading it, I'm like, I really want to
Can't wait.
see this.
Yeah, and the trailer looks so much like that.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Goosebumps all over me.
Big time.
Every
So-
inch of me.
How about you? What do you think?
I would say I'm very happy that Peter Benchley was around to write Jaws, and I'm very happy that somebody decided to make it into a movie. Because again, I haven't read Jaws, but I'm very happy it's a movie.
Right.
And the same thing goes for I guess Michael Crichton too.
Right.
Because he wrote a bunch of cool stuff that you hear about this thing Jurassic Park, and to come up with an idea like that
Bring it
is
to life.
so cool.
So who's a
Dragon Tattoo also. Is
right?
a great
Exactly.
example.
Steve Larson. One of the
It's a good example, Catherine.
great
Let's not give
great
yourself
example.
too much credit.
Man,
here.
am I nailing it? I'm nailing it.
I'm looking forward to seeing parts 2 as well. But here's one. Like, sometimes the movies don't always do justice to them. I mean, again, like, I know, Mark, you loved John Carter, but I don't think we're getting a sequel for that bad boy.
we can only pray.
Well, that's not because of the that has nothing to do with Edgar Rice Burroughs. It ain't his fault.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And my point is that it was a fantastic series and books that probably should be made into movies. But my thing with that movie, and we really haven't talked about this on the podcast, I mean, was the fact that the books, the tone, dark. You have it's a more serious tone. It's more, again, Lord of the Rings meets like Star Wars type thing.
Some of my fans wrote that the beginning of I didn't read the book.
Yeah.
That the beginning of John Carter book, the characters were better set up.
Yeah, and he doesn't do that the way he transports is different from the way he transports in the movie.
Okay, because in the film, the first hour, I checked out. I really wasn't.
I mean, I was out. Me too.
Yeah.
I think you and I felt the same way about the movie.
The movie's got a Disney sheen on it, definitely.
That's
and
the part. It was too light and fluffy.
It felt a little bit like a more exploratory kind of Stargate. Like, there's more stuff going on once they get to the other planet.
There's no depth.
But there wasn't as much depth as I would have liked.
And
But
that's the thing I think that hurts these novels, because this is a novel that should be a movie, and because there is so much depth in there, and nothing's gonna happen now, it's gonna be a long time before that happens.
Well, here's my question. Sorry to interrupt you,
Please,
Catherine.
Tom, talk to me,
you
Mark.
gorgeous beast, you.
Oh, boy.
Look at these two.
Gorgeous beast.
I think that you wonder why I'm single. Why hasn't there been Pet Sematary was good. I think that's a really scary movie, and I really like that
King,
movie.
there's been a lot of good
But
Stephen
how
King
come Stephen King is such a great horror novelist? How is there never been? It's like
You just answered your own question.
Pet Cemetery. Maybe Sleepwalkers. I don't.
You just answered your own question. The only one is maybe.
I didn't even hear a question.
Well,
How come Stephen King's books can't be made into a good movie?
Because that's
I
why.
see.
Because that's why. Because Stephen
With the exception of Stand By Me
and maybe
The Green Mile.
And that the 4-hour part.
It is awful.
The first half is pretty scary.
The first half is great because it's about the kids. Then you see this
second
stupid
part's
clown
awful.
walking
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Right.
But look, the reason why that is because there are specific writers that it's their voice and their words that make the thing so effective that if you hand it to a director or even no matter how good it just doesn't work because because it could seem maybe things could seem silly or they don't see it the same way. And,
adaptation, man.
Yeah,
I should probably
adapting a screenplay is no small task.
no,
a
it's
lot of
hard.
people are like, "Oh, it was already a book,"
Right.
But it actually requires a very delicate hand.
Is The Shining Stephen King, though? Because I would have to say The Shining's great.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are some that work for sure, but I mean, look at even Ian. He said he had problems. It was a challenge doing his own.
I love
novel.
hearing that the poem wasn't actually his, but
That's
the
pretty great.
director's.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great detail for the fans to hear because it was it felt like such a pivotal.
Yep.
It felt like the spine of the film.
Yeah.
When I saw the movie, I was like, that poem is why there's a movie now. It's because somebody saw that poem and they're like, oh,
Right.
I could write a cool story around this, and that was the
that's
last
why
thing to show up to the party.
It just shows you that Joe Carnahan needs to do more stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's so much better at the small, gritty stuff. Like, I think he gets lost in the big action stuff, but that's a totally different.
Because he's actually a very good storyteller.
great storyteller,
and the way he
small
set the
details.
shots up, he was really. There's a lot of artistry going down.
But anyway, so I think that's the answer to the question as far as certain books that just don't work.
Yeah.
But you have novels like Harry Potter that do because there's so much. I mean, there's movie written all over it.
Right. I never read the books. I actually didn't even watch all the movies until
Really?
I did
Oh,
a
you have seen
BID
them.
special. I did a Breaking It Down Harry Potter edition.
Right.
Like last year at some point, and I'd never seen any of the films or read the books, and I had to watch all of them
That's
in
what
one
I made
week.
him do.
Yeah, I had to
I
go on a
watched all
crash
of them
course.
in 1 week,
And
and
I
they're
got-
all like over 3 hours.
Yeah.
I got
But you were
addicted
addicted,
to
right?
it.
It was so much fun.
Right.
It's
the
so much
first two are
fun.
tough to not tough to get through, but the tone is different.
They're
It's
more
like kiddish.
kid friendly, but it's really
Right.
exciting to not only watch this journey of Harry
Well, the second
grow
one is
up.
the worst.
It's
The second one is the one I'm trying to remember. I think the
I
second
like
one
the
is
second one. The Chamber of Secrets. I
Is
like
that the one? Chris Columbus, I dug, and then I
They're
think
both.
it was,
1 and 2 were Columbus. 3 was Alfonso Cuarón. Was the third one?
maybe that's the one.
No, the third one's the best
Is
one.
that the one I
Time
loved?
Machine?
I
The time-
can't. They're all
when they go through
morphing
time?
into one.
Yeah,
they all turned into one, but look, all I know is that Hermione slowly got more and more legal as the ones progressed.
His
and
pants came
Yes.
down more and more.
Yes. True, true.
A little less creepy.
God bless
with every
Hermione.
movie.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's there are definitely but I have to say there are celebrated books and there's some like Twilight. No, thank you. You know what I mean?
Not
Like,
interested.
I feel that even if you read those books, they're just as trashy as the movie is.
Right.
Like there's like.
Is there any part of you that's nervous that will happen with the Hunger
No,
Games?
absolutely not. Because of so many.
Catherine, I
different
should have
reasons
told
why.
you before we started. Christian gets very angry if
No,
you
but-
mention those two.
Well, I'm
I don't
very
understand why.
excited for the film, but I am nervous that it's going
and
to
I
be
get
too
it.
commercial and that they're going to go a little bit Twilight.
They made it
just for the
PG-13,
sake-
right? And
Yeah,
according
but
to all you people that read it, it
That's
should be
right.
rated R. But
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, and I totally get that. And let's talk about the PG-13 thing first.
Okay.
which
the
you
M-
hate. This is
No,
really
no.
I mean, generally in
general,
movies, it's
generally
a
I
sore
hate
subject.
it.
with
Generally, I hate it. But the difference is with the MPAA, right? It's in America, obviously. I think that's the only thing that they rate anyway.
Fuck
they're
everyone
the-
else, am I right?
They're the
Well, no,
most
but
in
I
Picture
don't think that- I
Association
don't-
of America.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. So the MPAA is very. The reason that they give R's are either because of language and nudity.
Or boobies. Yeah.
Now they are and sex. They are very lenient on violence.
Right.
So you can be pretty violent with this. Depending. You don't have to. I don't think that.
But as long as there's no boobs.
right,
you can cut
and there's
someone's
not,
head
and
off.
there's not
Right.
a lot of sex in the thing. You can do as long as you do it, and you cut it. And Gary Ross is the kind of director that I don't think he's going to hold back enough. You're still going to get the brutality of it all,
Right.
Because there's certain scenes you
It
can't
is such
get away.
a brutal concept.
You can't get away. There's certain scenes that, without saying anything and ruining it, there are certain scenes that you cannot get away from it. You can't cut it down because it's going to be tragic. It's going to be stuff that happens, and that's
So,
so that.
so it'll be really violent, but you're pissed off at Chuck Norris for making The Expendables 2
Totally
PG-13.
different.
It's going to be
Please
it
don't
could be
compare those
violent.
two.
No,
Do not
it's a
compare
good, it's a good comparison because the difference.
Absolutely not.
Because the difference is that the Hunger Games doesn't rely on gratuitous violence.
There's a
Expendables
real
does.
story there. The Expendables is more
the
just a
Expendables
bunch
is
of dudes.
fluff, and you have
Oh,
and
please, yeah. Hunger Games is actually a love story.
So
There's
is
a
The
huge love
Expendables.
story.
It's about men who love beating up bad guys.
that goes to the
Right.
second point as far as Twilight. It's like people are, it's going to be the next Twilight. The only thing, the reason that they compare it is because of a love triangle, and it's so small.
Well, Gala doesn't even really exist in the
until
first
the
one.
second, right?
Yeah.
He pops in here and there, and when it happens, it's not like that Edgar.
But I would like to ask Schmoeville
Yes.
if they are Team PETA or Team Gale. Because I think we should start making shirts. I think we should get to the bottom of this.
That's when we tread dangerous waters, though, when we start calling them Team PETA and Team Gail.
I'm making a joke.
I know, exactly.
I'm known for
you're not
being
the only,
comedic.
You're not.
And sometimes I'm going to
Sometimes.
I will say this about Christian. I don't compliment him often, but I mean, we just threw a lot of Hunger Games-ish stuff. You should have your own booth at Comic-Con this year, where it's just you and people hurl questions about the Hunger Games.
And by the way, you should not even let them get through the question. Because Christian is so wound up about this film that before you can even ask the question, he's like, no, and here's why.
I don't want you to take
I'm
this.
on your page here, pal.
Christian has some habits in the movie theater when he gets really excited watching something that I've noticed that I don't know if I can sit next to you watching
Here
this
is the
movie,
married couple stuff. Now, hold on. What is Christian's give that he's bored?
Christian's give that he's bored is that he starts he's like, like that. That's
Yes. Yes.
He did that. He
He's
did that
audible.
one time.
I've heard that a few times.
And I had to have a pep talk with him before we saw Indiana Jones 4. I'm like, look, dude, even if you don't like this movie, if you
Keep it together.
Yeah.
Because then it ruins it for me.
Yeah, and when he's really excited about something, he starts twiddling his thumbs. Like
That's not true. I do that regardless.
They come up. No, you do it like intensely, like
really?
violent. Yeah, it's hysterical. Me,
Mark bites his nails. Like, no, you lying
is
sack
very
of shit.
calm.
You
He's
bite
very
your nails.
calm.
He bites his nails.
No,
It's the most disgusting
He
thing.
invented this nail biting.
I've never
see.
seen nail biting.
I swear
I've
to all you
seen-
people out
I've
there.
seen candy.
He needed something to fire back because he knows he has all these awful. He itches himself too. He's like a very
What are
itchy
you,
guy.
dumb?
He bites his nails.
I don't bite my
It's
nails,
the most
dude.
offensive thing I've ever
You
seen.
really-
Anyway, so back to the Hunger
I don't know
Games.
how you even noticed that while he's
I
giving you a
don't.
hand
It's
job.
because I don't do it.
Well,
And
anyway.
thank you, by the way.
All right. So I think that's a question as far as the Hunger Games goes. I'm not nervous about it because I think directing-wise, I think when they handed the directors of Twilight these novels and scripts, they go, "This is what the teenagers want. This is really camp it up, blah, go on the teenage love and blah blah blah." That's not what this movie's about.
Anytime you get dealt the Taylor Lautner card, you're like, well, this movie ain't going to be great.
That's
I guess.
right. That's right.
The source material is it's fluff.
Yeah.
As where the Hunger Games, look, are they the best written things of all time? No, but
Well,
they're
it's also the female protagonist is so badass
Yep.
in the Hunger Games as opposed
Yep.
to what's her name, Bella
Kristen
Swan.
Stewart, Bella Swan.
Yeah,
No, she does this frown the whole movie.
All she does
Seattle.
is she just waits for a guy to knock on her window.
Right.
Not a guy, a vampire.
A vamp.
And I think that's exactly a lot
Or a
of people.
wolf.
A lot of people think, or women. And correct me if I'm wrong. With Twilight, say like, that she kind of sets women back.
Oh my god.
Right.
She's so passive aggressive about everything.
Because she's dating two classic movie monsters. Yeah, that might set women back a
True.
little
Well,
bit.
Katniss is not going to have that problem.
no, she's not even interested in fellas. She might be a lesbian.
You
we'll
promise
see.
me she doesn't go to the prom with the creature from the Black Lagoon.
There's
You
no
can
there's no
promise me
prom
that.
going in this movie. That's
Okay,
why it's
good.
different. The only similarity that I will say okay is the battle royale one.
Right.
And only because in premise and not in anything else. As far as like the whole story, like it changes. It changes.
From the outside looking in, watching the trailer, what it reminded me of was the Schwarzenegger movie, The Running Man.
Running Man, yeah,
where
I
it's
mean,
like
there's
a
elements.
futuristic
Yeah,
game
yeah.
show.
And that's Stephen
Except
King.
like much, much better.
That's Stephen King, by the way. Running Man.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Man, I
So
got
there
it.
you go. There's one that worked.
Yeah,
but
so-
only because Arnold's. All right. So and then there's also we cannot forget about Aaron Sorkin.
Sure, a pro.
You're right, Aaron Sorkin.
The Academy never forgets about him.
Right.
Aaron Sorkin, Woody Allen, another one.
What did Aaron Sorkin do? I mean, he just did. Didn't he just do Dragon Tattoo? Didn't he just co-write?
Yeah, he did Dragon Tattoo. He did Moneyball.
Moneyball. He didn't do Dragon
That's
Tattoo.
it.
He didn't do
Moneyball. I
Dragon.
don't
He
think
didn't.
Dragon
No, he didn't.
Well,
do
he did
Dragon.
Moneyball.
That's
That
what I
was-
meant.
Which is the one with the girl with the tattoo? Is that
Moneyball.
Moneyball or is that girl with the
That's
dragon
Moneyball.
tattoo?
That's
Okay.
Moneyball,
Yeah,
Mark.
okay.
No, it was Moneyball and of course the
Social
Network, which
Yes, of course.
he got a lot.
A lot of snubbery going on.
right. So I mean,
One of my
he's-
favorites is the Kaufman Bros.
Right. What have
They
they
did
been doing?
Adaptation.
Right.
They did
Eternal Sunshine,
Eternal
Spotless Mind, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, they did what's that one? I'm blanking out right now, but I'm a big fan of the way they write.
Yeah,
Really complicated
and they usually
stuff.
and they usually work with like Spike Jones and
Yeah.
and they like Michelle Gondry. I thought did such a great job with Eternal Sunshine. But
Yes.
yeah, great writers, and I like to see what they have going on. But there's
And your boy Chris Nolan.
Chris and Jonathan Nolan.
Jonathan Nolan's together,
look
right?
at
Yeah,
Right.
John.
Oh, I see, I see.
Christopher Nolan wrote Inception, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Memento.
Memento, and his brother Jonathan Nolan writes the Batman movies with Goyer, and they're great because I think what those guys do is they know what audiences want,
Right.
But they don't write for audiences. Is what I love. They write for the story. They write for the character. They write
Right.
like they go, okay, this is what I think is best for the story, and
flesh it out.
and they show that, and they haven't been tainted by commercialism yet. You know, and hopefully they never do. So.
Yeah, they write to the story, and as long as we can understand what they wrote for Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, I'll be happy.
Well, there's another question, though, too, as far as, like, you know, we talk about novels, and we talk about that. Like, graphic novels is a big source of Hollywood stuff.
Right.
You know, 300 and, you know, a lot of Frank Miller stuff, V for Vendetta.
Watchmen, obviously comic books, too. Yeah,
I mean, there's tons of stuff. But there's some comic books. And I know we joke about this. Are there no comic book movies that you like?
No, of course I do.
Right.
Watchmen is not one of them, though.
I love the graphic novel.
Howard the Duck started out as a comic.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
I loved the graphic novel. I didn't care for the movie.
I never read the graphic novels for any of these things.
Right.
I'm just saying which movies I enjoyed.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like,
And Watchmen, I did not.
Fine, fair enough.
Yeah, that's actually what Christian said after Watchmen. And he's like, I did not care for it.
Did not care for.
So yeah, I mean,
It stinks.
That's my thing. Yeah, it stinks. So there's a lot of stuff out there that from, you know, whether it be short stories, whether it be graphic novels, there's tons of source material now that they're pulling from. You know, we got Hunger Games coming up. We have Spider-Man.
Is Wonder Woman ever going to take another trip down?
Wonder Woman? It's never had its first trip down besides TV shows.
She's gotten close a couple times.
No, I'm talking movie.
Yeah, well, here, I mean, we told the story, so I'll give you the brief thing. When I was working at Silver, right?
Oh,
she
boy.
wants to talk about Wonder Woman.
That's Christian's baby in the background, by the way. That's not me getting upset that he thinks I bite my nails in the theater, which I don't.
When I was working at Silver's company, he had the rights to it, and I actually found two writers who wrote an amazing script, and we're going to have them on.
Oh, good.
Matt Jennison. And he wrote it in a period piece way, but Joel didn't want to do it in a period piece way, and it was a bad move because that's what worked for Captain America. Because you can't have a woman in that kind of costume running around now without addressing it. What are you wearing a costume for? But back then, when it was all patriotic, it's a tough one to make. People were calling for it, and people want to make it. And Joss Whedon had a hold of it for a while.
I would love to watch it. I would love to play it.
You would love to play it, and I would love to watch you play it.
You know who they were talking? You know who someone suggested was that woman who played the princess in John Carter?
Yeah.
I think she's a terrible actress.
I don't think she's a bad actress.
I don't think she's that bad. I think the direction was bad. I don't think she's a bad actress.
Someone also mentioned Gina Carano.
Yeah.
No, she is terrible.
That's a bad
she is terrible.
Yeah, because she can
kick ass.
She can kick ass, but you need someone who's got to do a lot more.
Who maybe has some comedic timing too.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe has a great rack. I don't know. Maybe he's 5'7" with long dark hair and hazel eyes. I don't know.
Are you talking about me?
All right. Yeah.
We were talking about source material and stuff that's adapted into it. You really can't get away from mentioning those Grimm brothers either, because many.
That's a good example of what movies have worked.
Huh? Well, we're going to find out this year,
right?
Because the Snow White movies.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
You have Mirror, Mirror, right. And then and then you have The Huntsman, which could be pretty cool. So
my fingers are crossed. I got good feelings.
So, I mean, look, there's a lot of stuff that's coming.
It's got what's her butt in it though, so help us all. Bella Swan's coming back.
Frown face McGillicuddy. Now that's going to answer the question. Look up. That's going to answer the question.
Frown face McGillicuddy.
Stop talking to Mark that way.
What do you
want Smiley.
Now,
not even the baby wants to see Kristen Stewart play Snow White.
That's going to answer a lot of questions, because there are a lot of Kristen Stewart defenders out there saying, "Oh, it's the material that she's given."
Which I'll be on that boat too.
Well, if she can pull it off, but the reason why
tell me something she was great in.
Adventureland.
People think she
Come on, that didn't require anything.
And people say the Joan Jett movie as well.
No, disagree.
I'm with you. I agree.
I'm not saying she's Meryl Streep.
Mark,
but
why are you
good.
such a big fan of her?
But the one thing, the reason why I'm going to people who are defending her, then why didn't they put any of her acting in the trailer? None of her acting is in the trailer.
Great point.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so
great point.
None of her acting is in the trailer whatsoever.
There's a lot of Charlize. There's a lot of Charlize in it.
Right.
That's right.
Hottest bitch ever.
And
in
Thor.
that movie, I didn't call her. I called her character a botch.
Listen, I've been becoming very friendly with the word bitch. I love
botch.
my bitch. I'm a botch. That's what you guys say.
You say botch.
Little geeky.
Fair enough. So I mean, that's basically what we really wanted to talk about in this podcast was the screenplays, adapted stuff. If there's anything else that you guys think that we missed that you want to talk about, write a review on the iTunes podcast and rate it, because of you guys, we are actually in the top 30 of TV and film now on iTunes, and that is
so cool.
It's all because of Schmoeville. So.
Just in time for March Madness, we are about to crack the AP top 25.
That's right, and just because we want to be able to get into the top 10 before 2012 is over, we need you guys to keep doing that. So this is a lot of fun. I'd like to thank Ian Mackenzie Jeffers for coming on again. It was really cool.
So cool.
That's right, and now I know that I have a NASCAR moonshine movie to look forward to.
Oh,
I know the difference between a novel, a novella, and a novellini.
So
and
sexy.
I would encourage everybody to. I wouldn't say read The Grey because I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll do it.
See it when it comes out though on DVD.
But definitely check out The Grey, the movie, and then if you want to, do some reading.
Yes, and for Mark Ellis, myself, and Catherine Reitman, we thank you in Schmoeville, and to thank our wonderful producer, Katie.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you. See you guys. I don't bite my nails.
All right, guys, and make sure that you check us out at www.youtube.com/schmoesno and Catherine Reitman at youtube.com/Catherine Reitman.